Were you surprised by what you were watching last night, given the slop that we've seen for the last 8 years?
Yes. Short answer, yes. I was surprised with the way Trevor Ariza played. I was surprised that TJ Warren seemed to, at least one game in, found a three-point shot. Just the team across the board shooting the ball from three. Whenever the Mavericks had a surge and a run, the Suns were able to counteract that. I don't know how many times we saw that last year, where if the Suns were ahead and the other team seemed to come back, it seems like they were kind of just, all right, we're just going to let this happen and kind of be on our merry way. But they fought and played really well one game in.
They're not any good, though. Dallas isn't any good.
Exactly, yeah. And that's something, take all of this with a grain of salt. It's one game.
Oh, come on. Eric used grain of salt earlier, too. I don't want grains of salt.
Well, it's one game, Brad. Like, what do you want?
Yeah, I don't. I want this to be jumping up and down. This is all solved.
The team that had the number 5 overall pick.
This is all solved.
The Suns had the number 1. There's a reason that the Mavs are where they are, and they're without. Yeah, Dirk isn't what he was, but Dirk wasn't playing either.
He had a nice suit.
Yes.
Dirk looked great. He was on ESPN. He looked great. He looked
very well rested.
Jordan, how surprised were you when you learned that Todd Graham was out at Arizona State? A lot of us thought incorrectly that he was coaching for his job on Saturday, but he wasn't.
Yeah, it really was a case where I think there was a good amount of people who thought with a win over Arizona paired with a win against Washington this year, Oregon, Utah on the road, that could have been enough to keep his job. Personally, I didn't think it was that surprising based on kind of what we had heard going into this season from Michael Crow and Ray Anderson, that a 7-5 team wouldn't cut it. Now, I think when we were looking at the schedule and thought, if the Sun Devils were to have a 7-5 record, it wouldn't be with those wins against the Washingtons and those very good teams across the board in the Pac-12. But I basically kind of what they kind of set it up at the beginning of the year that if it's a 500-ish type season, that Todd Graham would be out the door.
Have they solved everything in the last 48 hours with JD leaving in the addition of 2 outfielders?
I don't know if they've solved everything, but they are in a much, much better place than they were 48 hours ago. The outfield was very thin, and, even with one of those key guys being A.J. Pollock, who 2 of the past 3 years has missed significant time due to injury, so you needed to create that sort of depth. Chris Owings was also an option out there. He's been battling injuries. Chris Herman's an option out there. He's been battling injuries. Yasmani Tomas has been out there. He's been battling injuries. So the fact that they were first able to go get Dyson, a speed guy who has a lot of flexibility, can play all 3 outfield positions, is just huge for them. It'll help in defense. They were 7th in the league last year in terms of stolen bases, and Torey Lovello said that's a huge part of their offense. So to have a guy that had 28 stolen bases last year is a very big addition. And then you bring in Steven Souza Jr., who has that power, that I'm not going to say same level of J.D. Martinez, but a guy who has a big power bat that can protect the A.J. Pollocks, the Paul Goldschmidts, the Jake Lambs, and really, lengthen out that lineup quite a bit.
Position, strictly a right fielder? Can he play both corners? What's their plan? I've had some fans send me notes on that.
They have said they haven't really specified necessarily. My guess would be right field, just because Torey Lovello has told us that he thinks David Peralta is at his strongest when he's in left field. So the natural progression would have Peralta in left, Pollock in center, and then Souza in right. But they said that he was an above average defender, so that also helps in terms of just the overall defense of that outfield.
Is there Herm Edwards barking around? Is he different than Todd Graham? It's his first day out there. Did you see anything different out of him, Jordan?
Well, Coach Edwards brought his dancing shoes when they let the music go, and they had Nelly going. They had a couple different songs during warm-ups, and he was not shy about the dance moves. So it does seem I can't think of the last time I saw Todd Graham walk with much of a rhythm or jive or anything like that, but Coach was definitely bouncing around and having some fun. So it does seem, at least in the spring, it seems like it's a pretty loose group. A lot of guys were excited to get back. You saw Manny Wilkins get here quite early as well to get going and get to work.